To order at 6:30 p.m. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Nakusp area have a rich indigenous history and respect the indigenous peoples within whose traditional lands we're meeting today. Introduction of late items.
There are no late items.
A1 agenda. Recommendation that the agenda of the November 24, 2025 regular meeting be adopted as presented. Have a motion to bring that forward. Councilor McLaren, seconded. Councilor Huck. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Minutes of the regular council November 10th. Recommendation, the minutes of the November 10th, 2025 regular meeting be adopted as presented. Have a motion to bring that forward. Councilor Canoisan, seconded. Councilor Panako. Any questions on minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. So today we have one Johnson Hills Farms presentation and recommendations to present presentation provided by Johnson Hills Farms be received for information. Have a motion to bring this presentation forward. Councilor McLaren, second, Councilor Canoisan. Is there someone here that wishes to speak on these presentations? Go ahead. You come on up. Come up. Sure. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Zelzman and Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. The picture that you see there is a picture of the 5 acres of the parcel that we're talking about. When we were little in the 1950s, that piece was cleared. That's what's grown there since. Nothing grows there. So like trees don't grow there, nothing grows there. So that's just an example of what I'll get to later. So we're wanting to introduce ourselves to you and provide some background information to help you decide to support our request to remove 20 acres from the agricultural land reserve. I'm Cheryl Johnson Dunfield. I enjoyed a wonderful career as a dance and music teacher in the Victoria and Qualicum school districts, as well as owning and operating several dance schools through BC. I worked also as a specialist for the Ministry of Education, BCGEU. So tonight I'd rather be teaching you a dance routine than talking to you, but here we go. I have 4 children and 7 amazing grandchildren. This is my sister, Teresa Johnson. And Teresa spent most of her working life with BC Tel and TELUS and is currently working as a product salesperson, specialist for vitamin companies, and she's involved in the film and television industry as well. She has 3 children and 4 beautiful grandsons. Mark McKinney, unfortunately, he's our partner in our business. He's a commercial realtor who works with us. Unfortunately, he has a family member who is quite ill and he couldn't make it tonight. We're sorry that he can't, but he will be available to answer any questions. He'll be available on the phone when we're done. He started working with us to market the cannabis facility that we attempted to build on the land. So a little bit of history. Teresa and I were born in Nakusp more than 70 years ago. Our parents, David Johnson and Doris Harvey, were also both born in Nakusp in 1919. Our grandparents, Kate and Ernest Johnson, immigrated from England to Nakusp in 1910. Followed soon after by Kate's brother, Jack Bailey. Some of the old timers might remember Jack Bailey. And our grandparents, Tom and Florence Harvey. All pioneers and first settlers in Nakusp, some of the first people to come here. Nakusp is very much home to us. Even though we followed our kids and grandkids to the coast. But this is home. There's nothing like this air. I stepped outside of the hotel this morning and the air is amazing. It has a specific taste. It's just delicious here. The Johnsons, Kate and Ernest, bought their first property on Shakespeare Avenue and Nakusp East Road. It expanded over time to 50 acres, including our 20 acres or lot 1. The Johnsons called their farm Alpha Ranch. And that was the arable portion of the ranch on Nakusp East Road. and it helped them and many other families get through the Depression. They had cattle on that land. One parcel of land was donated to Nakusp, the Frog Fleet. My grandparents donated that to build the school in, well, it would have been around 1919. Our grandfather, Ernest Johnson, was very active in building the United Church here. He was involved in all the church activities and was part of the early Farmers Cooperative on Broadway. The Harveys were also involved in service organizations, and all of our family were very service-minded community carers in Nakusp. Our parents were gifted the non-arable 30 acres of Alpha Ranch as a wedding present in 1942. Realizing the logic of the plan that Nakusp would expand in that direction, we grew up here on the acreage, and it was here that our parents, Dave and Doris Johnson, used 10 acres to create the current Glenacres subdivision on Glenacres Road. That was in 1963. It was well known that they intended to expand Glenacres subdivision to encompass the remaining unfarmable land, or Lot 1. Therefore, at that time, they had services brought to the property lines, and they secured an easement through what was Sinclair's properties, now McQuare's property, to allow access from Highway 6. They also kept one lot on Glenacres Road for access to the expansion of the subdivision, and you can see that in map 3. Among our family's many contributions to the community, one work of note is Grandma Kate Johnson's book on the history of Nakusp and the Arrow Lakes, which the Arrow Lakes Historical Society is currently reprinting. We gave them the rights to the book this year. Also, our parents generously offered to donate the property to Nakusp for the new hospital, and they didn't need it, so we still have it. We've considered several options to try to utilize the 20 acres. Our latest venture was to try and bring workers and small industrial growth to support Nakusp by building a cannabis operation. Unfortunately, after we had made a significant investment of approximately $750,000 in permits, engineers, architects, consultants, etc., and after diligently working with Health Canada and the village of Nakusp, the Canadian cannabis market collapsed at the last moment, making it unviable to continue. We had hoped this industry would bring not only employment opportunities, workforce, but also affordable housing to Nakusp. In preparation for the cannabis facility, we had the zoning changed to agricultural. We spoke to neighbors, published the intention, and spoke to the McQuares about the easement. They had to move their pig pen to make way for our roadway. Our other attempts to cultivate crops such as grapes, hay, and lavender proved impossible due to the poor quality of the clay and gravel soil. We've learned from the soil analysis and chatting with our neighbors on Glenacres Road that it is indeed thick clay soil. We are requesting that the village support our efforts to expand Glenacres subdivision by applying to the ALC to have the land Lot 1 removed from the ALR. In a phone conversation with Teresa in May of 2023, when we started this process, Wayne Robinson, village CAO, was asked if Nakusp needed workforce housing, and Wayne stated that the village did indeed need workforce housing and was very interested in our land, especially since services are available to the lot lines and it is within the city limits. We believe we will be successful once everyone is aware of the following facts. 1, our parcel is within the city limits, and you can see that lot, maps 4 and 5. We have a right to request that you apply to the ALC. We have been paying taxes in Nakusp for more than 115 years. The soil is clay and gravel on bedrock, according to the company that drilled the wells, neighbors who have built on Glenacres Road, and an independent soil analysis confer. The 5 acres that were cleared, which was that picture that you saw, still grows nothing. Our parents intended to expand the current subdivision, and they were promised that they could take the 20 acres out of the ALR when they were ready. I'm willing to obtain a signed affidavit from a lawyer stating that I remember that my parents having a conversation at that time, attesting to their understanding and intention that they could take the land out when they wanted. Mom wanted a signed document, but Dad trusted the handshake. We are aware of witnesses who heard our dad had a conversation with an ALC representative during which our dad was promised that putting the land in the ALR would lower taxes and that he could take it out whenever he was ready to expand Glenacres subdivision. There was a handshake and a document reiterating that we could remove the land whenever we wanted. That document, unfortunately, has mysteriously vanished. We haven't been able to find it. Wayne also mentioned that this process would be too expensive for the village. It is our understanding that we will pay a fee to remove the land from the ALR and change the zoning. After removing the land from the ALR, we will be responsible for civil engineering, architectural, and development costs. So there would be minimal cost and significant potential growth and great gains for Nakusp. We've had a conversation with Mayor Tom Zelsnick and council members, as well as people from the community representing the Chamber of Commerce, Upper Arrow Housing Society, and the Nakusp District Development Board. We understand from those conversations that there is definitely a desperate need for affordable housing in Nakusp.
Sure.
Yes.
I have to interrupt for a minute.
Yeah.
You've gone over your maps, so I've just got to get permission for you to carry on. With
Oh,
council.
okay, almost there.
Council, are you okay to carry on? All in favor? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not only has that need shown up in the development board's recent survey, but expanding the subdivision would increase your tax base considerably. As I mentioned earlier, services are to the lot lines, and we also have 2 very productive water wells on the acreage, 18 gallons per minute in one and 40 gallons per minute in another. This could provide Nakusp with an easily accessible source of potable water and decrease the stress on the current water system. As requested, I'm willing to draw preliminary plans for the subdivision, but I feel strongly that we need to work together. We need to work with village staff to develop a plan that suits the needs of Nakusp. We don't want to do something on our own. I think that it would be appropriate to work together. My plan is for strategic growth, including affordable and workforce housing. However, we need the collaboration with you, the council, and village staff. Our partner Mark has some creative and exciting options to consider if anybody wants to add. And finally, philosophically, I agree with reserving arable farmland. Arable land reserved for farming is imperative for our future, but we are asking for a tiny piece of land that is not arable to be removed from the reserve. I think that we're past.
Well, I just only take a second. It's just to clarify and summarize that what we need from council, and it's the OCP and zoning revision to support and match an application to remove the property from the ALR, like residential. And also village council and staff support of the application. And we realize that it's a challenge to remove the land from the ALR. And that's the reason for taking this very first step right now. And once that's done, we would have a lot of detailed information. Planning and support will be done once the OCP and zoning has been revised for the ALR removal application to residential. Thank you.
Any questions?
That was it?
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
and Mark will be available by phone. If you have any questions.
You say by phone, who's online? Right now?
No, we just call him right now. He's ready.
Right, thank you for the presentation, and we will. There may be some questions here you may have to answer. From council. Council, have any questions? Councilman Glenacres?
I guess just through the staff, we will have a report. Just like we don't make a decision on things at a delegation, so if there is a decision point to be made, it's not tonight.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, that's good. No decisions made tonight. It has to come back to staff. And correct me if I'm wrong, they would come back. Their recommendations and maybe I did hear that right. Did you say it wasn't in the ALR before and you had to bring it back in? Did I hear that right?
That's right. They built the subdivision in 1963. That land was not in the ALR.
Oh, it wasn't in the.
No.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
And so this is that would be a long process, especially with being in the OCP already and designated as farmland already or an ALR. You're going to find it very, very difficult, just from my observation now, it can be very difficult. Take us. Go ahead, Councilman Glenacres.
Through the mayor, just the two of you mentioned several specific documentation. Water supply with the wells, soil analysis, things like that. Some preliminary housing plans, would you be able to share those with the village?
Yes.
Okay.
That would go with the staff. Yes. Yeah. Good. We will here, I guess from here, it's OCP, can you clarify what process would look like?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So what this required is, unfortunately, the province changed the way that requests can be made to the ALC in order to remove parcels from the ALR. And so before it used to be that the landowner was the applicant, but now they've turned it over to the local government and asked the local government to make the application. So in fact, we would have to be the applicants that would be asking for this to happen. We would need to prove to the ALC, because I have spoken to the ALC about this. We'd have to prove to them that there is no agricultural value to this property whatsoever. So that means we'd have to demonstrate that you could never graze on the property. You could never have greenhouses on the property. So that's a pretty tall order for us to be able to prove. The other thing that would be asked to prove as well is that we have no land available in all of Nakusp to be developed for housing. And that's why this has to be pulled out of the ALR. In that area alone, there's 11 lots that are not developed. Several of those lots are over 2 acres in size. They are not part of the ALC or in the ALR, so they would be able to be developed. So this would be a tall order. And unfortunately, despite I understand what they're trying to achieve, and I applaud them. I agree. We would like to see more housing in town. From what I'm hearing from the ALC, the application won't be successful.
Yes.
That's a question. Just through the staff, is there a way to document that?
Mhm.
Oh, thanks.
I have a letter from the ALR.
Okay.
And the ALC. Oh, and sorry, regarding you had asked too about the OCP would have involved. It would actually involve us to basically rewrite the entire OCP. The official community plan speaks an awful lot about agriculture and the importance of agriculture and the fact that the village would not, that the village would not support applications to remove land from the ALR. So that would require a significant rewrite of the official community plan. Official community plan is a very lengthy and in-depth document that requires a lot of public consultation. So we would have to conduct all of that over again, which is not a simple task and definitely not an inexpensive task.
Councilman Teresa.
Through the mayor to staff, so you would have to rewrite the entire OCP as opposed to, having a variance permit.
Yeah, so you're not able to vary this because it's a variance of use. So this is not also, OCP is not something you can also vary. You can only vary other documents. This would also require us to, it's sort of a chicken and egg thing, and this is what's really difficult about it. Because our OCP speaks so much about keeping lands in the ALC, or like in the ALR, the difficult thing is then we would have to rewrite it, but in order to rewrite portions of the OCP that speaks about ALR and the ALC, we would have to reach out to the ALR and the ALC for their comment. So it's just a very it's a bit of a convoluted process, and they I think on purpose they make it so it's really difficult, for you to be able to remove properties. I know when we were looking to remove the property up by the airport, it was something that was identified in our OCP as something that we would work towards. And that was one of the main reasons why the ALC was why they sided with the village to remove it, but they also wanted to see, they put a lot of conditions on it as well. So one thing that they would definitely ask us to provide them with would be a full design of what the property is going to look like if it's pulled out and developed. So they would want to see conceptual drawings of what the housing development would look like, what it would entail, how many units, how it's going to fit in with the surrounding areas. So even for the proponents who are looking to put this forward and have the village put in the application on their behalf, it's a lot of work on their part too, to get that ready.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor, with the new housing bills in the past couple of years, are we required to redo our OCP every X number of years? And if so, is that coming soon? Or what's the timeline?
Yeah, through the mayor, I don't know the answer to that. I know that you're supposed to at least look at the OCP. I would say it's probably within the next 3 to 4 years.
Thanks.
Okay.
Where are we now? When did we do the OCP?
In 2020 is 2020. Was it adopted 2021 or 2020? It was 2020. I think so.
We did it in 2020, but it was approved in 2021.
2021, so it's supposed to.
But it's 5 years from when the legislation was passed.
So what I heard, it took a lot of work on their part too. I know there's a lot of work for you. Is it something that they could sit down with you and show you their development and everything else? And I'm not sure what they could do to show you everything they've got. And send all that in prior to going out to anybody. Reach out to the agricultural land. Commission, whoever, and just say, here's what we got. And we hear from you before we proceed too much further. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they can definitely sit down with me. I have already spoken to the ALC. I've already provided all the information that the applicants or potential applicants have put towards me. They will need to come up with a concept plan.
Yes.
It has to be drawings. It has to show exactly what it is, because the ALC will want to make sure that they're looking to do a development, that they're not actually looking to just subdivide the land itself. But on top of that, we're going to have to prove that we don't have any property available in the village that's not within the ALR that can be developed. And already I can show over 20 parcels that haven't been developed, and that's within like well-established residential areas.
But even with the information, I guess they said there was a document, we don't know about it. Yeah, it's going into a legal area, I don't know.
Well, the AL, I know they say that it was put into the ALR in the 1960s, but the ALC was never, it wasn't created until 1973. So ALC didn't even exist.
That's when it did go in.
But that's when the ALC began, so that's when they put properties in at that point. The other thing too is that it's not uncommon for the ALC to move new properties in. So for example, the properties surrounding the hospital belonging to Mrs. Spicer, those were put into the ALC. The ALR sometime in the 2000s, early 2000s, late 1990s.
All right, hopefully it moves.
I'm trying to find my notes because I went to the Keeping It Rural conference with Councillor McLaren Hoback. At the, I don't know, in June, thank you. And we did have a presentation from the ALR. And they said, and I'm trying to find it, I can't find the exact notes, but they said that they're trying to be more, they're removing many pieces from the ALR these days. And that they have a reputation as not wanting to remove things, but then they give this grand statistic of the amount of properties that have been removed from the ALR and how approachable they are. I'm speaking in generally, since I don't have my notes in front of me, I can't seem to find the note, but I know I've read it a couple of times because so I'm surprised to hear that when you've had the conversation that they're saying that it is so complicated to remove it from the ALR, because that is not the impression they gave at the Keeping It Rural conference.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So I guess we'll leave it with you and you reach out to the Johnsons and see what they can come up with together. Their information that they can present, the plan, everything that they would need. And not really the financial cost to the village, it's the time, correct?
Yeah, it's never been about the financial cost, although time is money.
Yeah.
It really does boil down to the staff capacity. It's when you have somebody from the ALC saying to you that you're going to have to prove to us that there's no land available, and you're gonna have to go through and show why these different lands are not available for development.
Yeah, so I'm going back to the history part, what they found in the history of it. It's all you can do is present it, and before you get too far into it, you should be able to learn quite a bit from that. Yes, so. Did you have a?
I was just gonna say, based on our last experience, like, I don't think you wanna make your application without a really good case, because
No.
you don't get a second shot.
No, I guess that's what I'm saying. Make sure you got a good case before you go. I remember previous CEO Linda Tynan, she didn't want to even touch it really until she understood it more. And we did go on a Zoom meeting, myself and her, and we met with the board on the Zoom. And they were telling us exactly what they wanted before we presented it. So and we did go back and present it.
And it took me a year to finish that process.
Yeah, it's a long process. So I think they realize it's a long process. Also, promotion.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when did they change the rule that it has to be through the city instead of the individual going to the ALR? You don't know that.
Was it just 2 years ago?
Like recent.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate.
It is really unfortunate, because it'd be nice if the landowner would be able to make the application,
Absolutely.
because then the onus is on them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And the investment is on them as well, because essentially is the village making the investment as well as the applicant with time.
Okay, so guess we'll leave it with yourself, or the staff, and the Johnsons, and come up with it. And as long as I think they fully understand that this is going to be, it's a long, unknown, and possibly might not work process. Okay. Yeah. And I really thank you for your time for coming. And it was sad to hear that cannabis didn't work. Is there any way that can come back? No. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? All in favor? Sure. All right. Okay. Okay. Finish business. So F1, review of fire department management and administration, there's a recommendation, there's two of them here. One is that the CEO be directed to recruit a full-time director of emergency service, which includes the role of fire chief for the Nakusp and area following the fire department. Motion to bring this forward. Councillor Huff, seconded, Councillor Denoisen. Questions? Any questions? Councillor Denoisen.
I'm sorry, I just need a moment before we move on. I was just hoping that maybe through the mayor's staff could, I'm just looking for the part that needs that I was hoping for clarification. I mean, this report is really huge and there's a lot of information in it. I know that, I think what I understand is that most communities of this size population to the staff, don't usually have a full-time paid fire chief, is that correct?
Through the mayor, that is correct. The vast majority of communities the size of Nakusp have a volunteer fire department. The ones that have full-time fire chief tend to be larger municipalities that are district municipalities or have very large industry. And a lot of the reason is they would have they have more money. That's one thing. The other thing is that the full-time fire chief is able to help protect the large assets of like large mills and mines and whatnot.
Councillor Clarko.
Yeah, this is a complicated file. I think we all want to support the volunteer fire department. But I think we also have to make sure we're getting value for the investment. If we're looking at that much of an investment, and I think we also have to be sensitive to the fact that just to keep the lights on, we already have to increase taxes by the 12% we're already looking at. So they have to be, tax increases have to be balanced against the manageability for the average person. I think there's some specific questions I have about the report, which is well done. So thanks through the mayor to staff with that. I think there's some key pieces here, like separating, if we go the route of hiring a full-time fire department or fire chief rather, I think we have to be, and as written in the report, very clear about the separation of road rescue and fire department. So I'll just say all my questions and then leave it out there, but I'm curious about how we make that clear, how that distinction clear, how we're professionalizing the leadership and administration while also taking road rescue out of it. I know there's a possibility to involve the regional district in this, and with all due respect to the regional district, and I sit at that board, I support the idea of investing in talent that we have locally, because I think far too often we farm things out to the regional district, and then that capacity is centralized at Nelson and not here. And then there's one particular line in the report that says because in the report it says words to the effect of if we go the route of a full-time position, there will be other tasks that are attached to that, and out of which we will get value. But it says somewhere in there, if this position is fully utilized. So my question is, how do we ensure that this is a professional position and the position itself is, quote, fully utilized? So Having said what I said, I think my main questions are, how do we make sure the role is fully utilized? And how do we make absolutely clear that the fire chief role is not the road rescue? Through to staff or the mayor.
Through the net. So one of the biggest tools in my toolbox will be the fact that I'll be the person that will be creating the job description for the recruitment for the person. So be very clear up front what it is we expect the person to do, what the roles and responsibilities will be. There will be a contract in place, so that means, of course, council will take a look at that contract, before it's issued, and present it to the person. It's always easier to manage a person that you've hired because you've hired them under certain expectations of what it is the job is going to entail. It's a little bit more difficult to manage somebody that maybe was operating completely different and maybe over time started doing different things than what the original job description did. And trying to, correct the course. So I'll be managing this person directly, and that's how we'll make sure that this person is doing everything that's asked of them to create that value.
Any other questions? Councillor Canois?
I would like to emphasize and repeat Councilor McLaren-Co's comment that we do want to support the fire department. Obviously, it's a necessary industry, and the amount of time that the volunteers put in is appreciated by myself and every person who's needed them. I guess I'm just a little bit concerned about going to the taxpayers, making this decision, going to the taxpayers and explaining to them why we are making them pay for a full-time chief when that is not a typical that it's not typical for a community of this size. So I guess what you're suggesting through the mayor to staff is that there will be the benefits of doing so. There'll be a lot more put on that person's plate in order to justify the payment. Is that, I mean, maybe you can speak to that.
Through the mayor. So one of the issues that you're running into in Nakusp is the perception of what the previous fire chief was doing in the role. The previous fire chief was actually only employed for 3 days by the village. The rest of the time, which at one point was 2 days, then it dropped down to 1 day, were non-village related aspects that the person was actually employed to do. So it's never actually been technically a full-time job. However, one way that you could justify it to the public is by deciding not move ahead with the 0.5 period, the 0.5 full-time position of an extra public works staff member. That would basically be a swap. You drop that position in order to fund this position. There will be some efficiencies in other aspects of the organization because we'll have the fire chief and director of emergency services take on those tasks. One thing that I think that maybe people, this is just in case the public has seen this, but I'm sure council is aware of this, is that the emergency program coordinator that we had working for us, their funding that was provided through the COVID Safe Restart grant would have ran out at the end of this year. So in order to keep the administrative aspect of things going forward, for the fire department and emergency program in general, would have required a 1.3% tax increase regardless. So we were looking at an increase no matter which way we looked at it, because that funding was going to dry up at the end of this year.
Through the mayor to staff. So sorry, I'm just trying to understand. So the information here of the 2.6% increase. So is that on top of the 12.3 or is that?
Through the mayor, good question. And this is what was discussed by council previously was, so we have the 2. So basically when we were at the committee of the whole meeting, there was the discussion and council showed favor, although no decision was made, to increase taxes by 2.6% to allow for a halftime FTE, so 0.5 FTE in public works. So that's what makes up the 12.5% that's being projected for this tax increase.
Yeah.
So rather than taking that 2.5 and putting towards public works, you'll take that 2.5 and put it towards the fire department.
Yep, understood, thank you. To mayor to staff, this is out there in left field, I know, but is there any possibility, through discussion with the RDCK that they might bump up their share, or, you know, they're at 4.7 right now, and I still believe there's conversation to be had, so I don't know if they might be willing to support a little more than that 4.7 or 47%.
So through the mayor, that funding model, it actually is based on the assessed value of all the properties.
Yeah.
And so whoever is within the fire response area, or the fire service area, it's based off the property value. So it's, although the service is going to be renegotiated this coming year, actually it's at the end of this year, it expires, we have a 6-month extension though. So that would have to be re-looked at. And then there is potential discussion of expanding the fire service boundary, which would bring more outside of the village within into the fire service. So that could help share the cost if it made sense to do so.
So I do know in Area H, which up of Summit Hill, there's about 22 homes in the Summit Lake area. So that would be drawn in to our taxation also. So there's a possibility there. And the other one I've got is, you were talking about our fire smart coordinator and his job description, he was the emergency program coordinator also, was he?
Who was that?
Noah?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he was emergency program coordinator / fire smart.
So there was 50, I think, I can't find it right now, but there was 5440, which was a band back in my day. But there was $54,000 that came from Fire Smart and 40,000 from COVID. So he hasn't been working for, well, he comes and goes, I guess, for a day here and there, but 50, if you took, I think he was done in September, so that's 4 months to the end of December. So 54,000, that would be maybe 15,000 left over on there. Would that have to go back to Fire Smart?
We have to pay that money back if we don't complete all of the requirements of the Fire Smart program, and there are things outstanding.
And then the 40,000 COVID, it would be about 10 or 12,000 left there then, correct? Where would that go?
We're probably gonna consider the COVID gone, and we're gonna be paying back some fire smart funding.
Oh,
It's not optional. Funding.
but the COVID 40,000, what happens to that? There should be,
So we've already,
you just,
consider that we've already paid that to his wages this year,
okay,
because we're gonna have to pay back a bunch of fire smart funding.
okay,
Um,
okay. Councilman McLaren Co is next.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a few things. At Regional District last week, they approved the 6-month temporary extension of the fire service contract with the village while they're negotiating a longer term one. So who knows what the outcome of that will be. In terms of the areas of the regional district supporting it, including potentially part of Area H, which was Hills and Summit Lake. I mean, there are some houses there that could very slightly dilute the funding model. But all RDCK funding comes from taxation. So it's Peter to pay Paul here, like it's so everybody's looking at taxes the same. And there's one other comment I wanted to make about the whole situation. Just like we are making decisions for the corporation of the municipality here, not for what's right in front of us. I think that the decision for the fire, whatever decision we make, it needs to be for the benefit of the corporation of the fire department, like for the benefit of the community long term, not for the members currently, because those members will change, just like councilors will change. Just a thought.
Any other questions, Councillor Canoisan?
Through the mayor to staff, I'm just wondering if you could, I know that we decided to put funding toward the FTE in the committee of the whole. And I'm wondering if you could just review for those who might not know what redirecting those funds to a full-time fire chief will mean for that loss of not having enough, if we chose to go that direction.
Sure, through the mayor. So the concept of that position was brought forward to help deal with a lot of the backlog of the things that we just can't get to through our public works department. We have a lot of requests for things like ditching, cleaning up gravel on the side of the roads after the rain falls. Just it's a lot of we have drainage issues that we wanted to get at, and basically we get all of these requests that come in from the public, and because they don't really meet the core, responsibilities of what we have to do, we just can't get to them, and we feel bad because of course the requests come in. We say we're going to try to get to them, and we really honestly do, but we just can't. So it's just a lot of different things that the public has asked us to do, and we just can't get around to it. We were hoping to be able to take care of that.
Oh, another one, we talked about Fire Smart, so you're gonna send that money back, but would we reapply for it again for the next year?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's a good question. So, we have every intention to be able to reapply to it. Of course, it doesn't help your application when you haven't been able to complete everything. The other alternative is that we could work with the RDCK and have them provide the Fire Smart program on our behalf. So we would sign on to their application. So there's a couple of different options available there.
Through the mayor to staff, the reason that those things weren't completed was because there was a resignation from one of the people, from Noel, the fire starter.
Yes, that's correct. He resigned in September, so there were a variety of things that were on his work plan that have not been completed. The other thing though too is that the application probably overstated how much money we were hoping to be able to give back to members of the public for doing Fire Smart activities. Like I think the budget was like $100,000 for refunds. So, and there hasn't been anywhere close to that amount of claims for people having done the work and being reimbursed for that work. Yeah.
But there are opportunities to continue that.
Not right now.
No, I meant we've got a big area inside our municipality, there's a vast area that's treed with homes on it. Just gotta get the word back out there, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's hard. Like a lot of people applied or asked for the assessment, but then didn't carry out the work. And it's something we discuss an awful lot with other people in emergency management, just how sometimes what works against you is the fact we had a really good summer. There weren't a lot of forest fires in the area, and so people just kind of fell off the radar, right? Whereas if you have a summer of what happened 2 years ago, more people are on top of it because it's very fresh in their memory.
Councilor Chronicle.
Well, I mean, just while nobody's talking, I was just gonna say I'm shocked that we're sending back so much Fire Smart money. Shocked and disappointed. Because there's such an opportunity for people to take advantage of this and to improve their safety for their own homes, their neighborhoods. I mean, if we do hire this director of emergency services or whatever it's called, I mean, and I'm sure I've said this to most people in this room, but anytime there's an opportunity to even remotely related to Fire Smart, I always say, go get it. Get the assessment, it's free, get the grant funding done. So just one of my own personal motivations here is just to make sure that there are metrics around getting this money activated for the community, because to send money back it's I don't even have the words for it. It's a shame.
We could do, go ahead.
So, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. To the mayor to staff here again. So the more I keep rereading this to myself, and I'm a little, I'm getting more confused on what the requirement actually is. Is it a fire chief or is it more of an administrative position? Because every time I see here's the title, even if we were to go on option 2, for example, director of operation, or the position ideally would be titled Director of Emergency Services. But the topic in hand is fire chief. Am I correct? So these are 2 different positions. So where I'm going with this is I have a hard time really making a, I guess, informed decision because it's a totally separate, like, do we just say, here's the position of fire chief, here's the duties, but you know, I don't feel that a salary, you can't match up a salary with what duties they were to perform currently here. And like that being said, we're a small community. We don't have the large requirements, you know, with bylaw and whatnot. I know there is a fair amount of work for sure that I agree upon, but I'm just having a hard time, like everything just seems to be blended, and there's no real lines being drawn of, okay, this is the requirement for fire chief, here's salary expectations and a breakdown of those requirements, and then here's that other position that kind of is floated into here. So like I'm struggling here to really be able to make a decision on this subject here. So I it's a tough one.
Would you like me to provide some clarity?
That'd be great.
Okay, through the mayor. So yes, the reason why it is much larger position than just straight fire chief is because there is not enough work for a fire chief full time. There really isn't. A fire chief is responsible for, well, they can be responsible for training, you know, the care of the volunteers and the fire department itself. It's ideal to have them take care of, say, fire safety inspections and, of course, fire scene investigations. Now, we don't have very many structural fires, thankfully, within this community. So it's not, that last one is not something that they're going to have to do very often. However, the Fire Safety Act requires that we have people appointed to be able to do that in the fire safety inspections. We do need a little bit more planning on our emergency program within the community. Although the RDCK does a lot of that work for us when an emergency hits, it would be really nice to have somebody who is able to take charge of the EOC in the general area so that administration doesn't have to do that, because at that time, we're still gonna be running the municipality. And it's better for someone to be able to liaise directly with the RDCK and the Emergency Management Department. Bylaw enforcement, man, that's just really helpful to be able to have somebody do the bylaw enforcement on our behalf. And on top of that, the fire chief, it would be advantageous if we were able to have them go and do the, you know, they would be able to go out and deal with complaints about smoke and investigate when somebody is burning where they're not supposed to be burning, or burning things that they are, you know, at the wrong time of the year. So one thing that hasn't been taken care of for a while is the fire safety inspections. So that would definitely be a really big thing. The other thing too is that there's a lot of administrative work that is required for the fire department. And so we would task them with all of that. And then, of course, the overall management of this building. This building in itself is sort of managed off the side of somebody's desk. And then it would be nice to have them be able to take care of being the liaison with all the different renters in the building and do any of the maintenance of the building as well. There's also fire apparatuses too that need some management too, and making sure that we're staying on top of that, ordering for the fire department. So there is quite a bit to be able to make this person do.
I guess we could say previously there were 2 positions here, Noel and the fire chief.
That's correct. Basically, Noel was doing all the administrative work. And the fire chief was responsible for managing the fire department and doing the training officer work.
Through the mayor to staff. I do remember, you know, as our first term, there was a lot of feedback information brought forth on that fire chief's position and duties and how it was hard to, we were scraping out work basically to find for that position. So, there's a difference in these two options here. One is 62,000. Am I correct in that? Option one is 62,000 a year.
Sorry, just yes, it's all here.
And that's the volunteer. And
Volunteer with the half-time spend.
yeah, and then the second is between 84 and 96,000. That in itself, right now, I would have a tough time using that second option strictly just for that value, like that overall value and the requirement we currently have for that role.
So one thing I'll add to this is that this is also a deeply political question. You've got fire department members here in this room that have demanded a full-time fire chief.
So I do know there was a conversation, there's sounded like some misunderstandings, and unfortunately, and I do apologize, I was not a part of the meeting with the fire department. Are you able to clarify that? So,
Well,
were we able to clear up some of that confusion or misunderstandings?
I'm not going to discuss that meeting,
Okay.
but I will say that politically speaking,
Mhm.
and I'm not a political person, but to be politically astute, you will likely face far less backlash from the community by raising the taxes by 2.6% than you will be by saying that you're not going to hire a full-time fire chief.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Councilor Connors?
I just appreciate staff reiterating the jobs that would be included with the full-time fire chief if we are going to justify increasing taxes that much. It's nice to know how much work will be taken off the plates of staff and how much will be accomplished with that fee. Thank you for clarifying that.
And I'll just reiterate, there were two positions here before. One was, I think it was about 96,000 gross, I'm not sure. With the 54 and 40. And Merck's on top of it.
Oh, as in the fire smart coordinator, emergency program coordinator, yes. Absolutely.
So I think, just my own opinion, I think there's enough work between all those, between the two to compensate them. I think you've showed the job description, is it in here, what it could be? An option to, or maybe I gotta find it again.
Yes, that's page 512.
Councilor Clarko.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Given the motion that's subsequent on this agenda, to more or less trade that halftime public works position to make up the shortfall, I'm happy to support this motion, but with the clear understanding about the separation between road rescue and the fire department, that this is professionalizing this position. And that I think there needs to be a long probation for this position. And I think there needs to be some pretty serious outcome metrics involved, because if we're going to be investing, again, being sensitive to the fact that, like I said at the beginning, we need to raise taxes double digits again to more or less just keep the lights on, keep the services at the level that everybody expects. Data support it, but knowing that there are outcomes that are tied to this position, which I'm sure staff will, through the mayor to staff, will be on top of. And I just want to follow up with through the mayor to staff and Wayne in particular for the professionalism with which you've handled this whole situation and your candor in allowing us to make an informed and honest decision. I think you've been subject to, frankly, quite a bit of abuse that you don't deserve. So thank you for that.
And show me the description, is it page 5?
Sorry, Jesus. It's just duties, so it's not a full job description, but what I have in there is the duties that were of the emergency program coordinator, and then the current duties of the volunteer fire chief. So all of those would be basically sandwiched together into the one position, plus bylaw enforcement.
Okay. Any other questions before? Councillor Hopper.
Sorry, and I just, on the whole taxation piece, and I just, it goes with, hand in hand with adding this position again, if whatever option, it sounds like option 2. That's, sounds like a minimal amount, but for me personally, that's $100 a year I pay extra for taxes. Or sorry, that's a lie. That is an absolute lie. That is $673 extra I pay a year in taxes. So I'm unable to afford, like, you do this 2 more times, I'm unable to afford my taxes. That's just putting it out there and being a realist. So
Councillor, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. If I just may respond to Councillor Huff's
Yeah.
point, we didn't ask for this. There's a letter that
Yes.
we received by, like the CAO said, people in this room
Yeah.
that are asking us to do this. And we're trying to manage the situation as best as we can. I don't want to charge, I pay taxes too. I don't want to charge people more, but
and I do truly appreciate and thank you. And I'm simply trying to make people aware, like, these decisions are possibly putting people out of their houses.
Back to the CAO, if we do 1 and 2 recommendations, we were gonna put a 1.4% increase on this regardless, correct?
Yes, that's correct, but if I could just so that we're on track, right now, we're still only dealing with recommendation number 1, so we're only gonna vote on that one, and then you'll enter into recommendation number 2, but yes, we would have been looking at a 1.4% tax increase, I think I had there. 1.4, we'll say.
And also our financial budget will be coming forward in January or
So
January.
I'm waiting for this meeting to figure out where we're going.
Okay, so you just need
Next
that
meeting.
information. So we'll be looking at that very closely too. Yeah. So. Any further questions on that one? Councillor Kamosi.
Just to say that in response to Councillor Huff's comments, we've had to make some really difficult decisions this year to try to find ways to save money, to fund reserves. Some decisions that have been very unpopular, very, very difficult decisions to make. And so I just find it difficult to make a decision for this big a tax increase. Essentially being insisted upon by certain individuals when we've had to make some really hard decisions in other ways to save money or to fund reserves. It's just my opinion. I think it's a difficult decision. We're in a difficult decision again. I think no matter what decision we make here tonight, there's going to be people who are frustrated, and I don't like that. I want to make everybody happy, and it's a really difficult thing to do. So just a comment. It's really just an opinion. And also to say, we appreciate the firefighters. It's not to say we don't appreciate what they're doing. It's difficult to raise taxes on people who are already struggling in this economy. To fund a position that typically in a population of this size, we don't. It's not common to have a full-time fire chief. I am glad to see that some of the consequences of if we go that direction will help take some of the responsibilities off staff. They're already overworked. That's it.
That's actually on page 9. Actually, it does say the village will be better equipped to meet the requirements of the new Fire Safety Act with a qualified director of emergency services. So long-term vision, long-term more people coming to the area.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
I just in a larger budget, because this is kind of a larger budget conversation, I think. But I think if we are trying to find ways to reduce the tax burden, the increased tax burden, I think that it's incumbent upon us as members of the council to come with specific, we've been at this long, even, I mean, this is my second term, but for the three other people here who it's their first term, we're almost at the end, right? So there may be suggestions, like if what service should we cut? Like what specific thing should we cut? If we want to drop taxes? We got to come up with something. Because if we're going to maintain the same services, just inflation and collective bargaining agreements means that same service equals, it's a steady climb. So if we want to charge less in taxes, people are either like less snow removal or crappier waters service or anyway, just.
any further questions? All in favor?
To clarify, that's option number one, correct?
Recommendation number one.
Did you
Sorry,
should
sorry.
ask opposed, because
Yeah.
I only saw two
Yeah.
hands go up.
All in favor?
For number one?
Of motion number one?
Yes.
Yeah. Carried. Recommendation number two. Councilor McCarthy, do you want to try that one, or you want me to?
Oh, sure. The Director of Emergency Services position be funded through. Do I get to choose?
Let me see, do I,
Okay, so I'll say by eliminating the proposed 0.5 FTE public works position in 2026. So
the second. Yeah. Questions?
This isn't a question, I just misunderstood the previous vote. I thought we were having to choose between number one and number two, and that's not true. It's okay. Just apologizing for misunderstanding. I would have voted differently. That's all. Carry on, please.
You didn't vote,
For number, I know.
but that means you voted in absence of not voting for it.
Okay.
You
Oh,
were,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Oh, good.
So I'm confused, what happened?
It's all good.
Carry on.
Councilor McCarthy?
I just wanted to make the comment that if we approve this elimination of the half-time public works position, I hope that people in the public understand that all the little things, as staff has mentioned, that we can't get to is because we're now funding fire chief.
Okay, any other questions on number two? Okay, thank you to council for making actually a good conversation. A lot came out of that, but long-term vision, long-term, I see this, I'll just leave it at that, but see. Councilor Knoisen?
Did we vote on number two?
No, yeah,
Oh, sorry, thank you.
it's still up for question.
Sorry, I thought we were moving past.
No, I was waiting for someone to speak. Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Your hand up, Councilor Knoisen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, carried. Do you want your name, please? Okay, can we add that, Councilor Cuff's name to oppose? Okay. All right, monthly reports, G1. Recommendation that the operations department quarterly report dated November 24th, 2025 be received for information. Have a motion to bring that forward? Councillor Blanco seconded. Councillor Hopkins. Any questions on the Director of Operations quarterly report? I have one.
Well, just one. Sorry, I have to only check my notes here. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, through the mayor to staff. There's a line in the report that says the sports complex or the auditorium is used is available an average of 6 hours per day. And it's open from nine to 9. Does that mean it's used half the time if there's 12 hours? So it's on average, it's about 50% usage. Okay, thanks. Interesting.
Anybody else have questions? Yeah, I do. Campground, our municipal campground here. Do you know how much we made this year? Has the financials been brought in for a municipal campground? After all expenses?
Ballpark 100 grand.
After expenses? After everything? That's probably our best year ever, but correct. Am I correct? And that's with the new management style?
So that's new system that we have going with the contractor base of what we were working on. We also have a new reservation system, which is pretty much all online, and we just made the decision today that we're going to open up bookings for the campground effective immediately rather than wait until the spring, and hoping that we'll see an even better year next year. As an aside, the Hot Springs also saw a record revenues for its campground as well.
And through the CAO, would we see more with the extra funding now, or usually you would probably make more money off of ones that have power, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How many would we install next year if we can?
We are working on it, I believe, are we not?
Yeah, at least 7.
7 more? And can you tell me how many have power now?
10.
10, so we'll be up to 17. Round one more, 18. I don't like 5.
We've been chat through the capital budget process.
Okay, well, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I'm glad we, actually, I want to thank staff for going the different routes, different style, because last year, what did we make, 20,000?
25.
25. So going this different style made it, well, 80-something% increase. So that's amazing. So that's good to see. So our campground expansion plan, do you ever look at it? And the waterfront, like do you ever see that campground expansion plan we did to the CAO and to the staff, Director of Operations? Yeah. You don't follow that, do you? You don't look at it?
The expansion plan, until this current campground hits capacity on more of the shoulder season and weekdays, I don't think it makes sense to invest the significant amounts that are in the plan.
All right. Any other questions? The wastewater plant, where are we in there? That's coming along good. Waste treatment, wastewater plant. Are we on budget there to finish? What was I forget what we all had to do there to be up to snuff with the federal provincial regulations.
Yeah, and in this case, it's easier to talk about the infrastructure projects than to talk about the water quality parameters, just because it's all leading towards the same goal. And so the contracts that are currently awarded and waiting implementation are the screw screen in the headworks, the blower replacement, and the diffuser maintenance. under the one grant, and then we're also looking at the scraper assembly on the dissolved air flotation plant. The upgrades. And other things at the lift station, which may contribute to the quality of that village as well. So that'll taken together will improve the effluent quality, although we won't know the results of that until we have them in place and see how they all do. But that's the current ongoing things, and then, of course, some of the work to date included the additional ponds and lining of one of the ponds for the DAF solids that come out of it, and some work with the pumps.
I appreciate the work being involved in that. That was a major one to do, which will benefit in the long term. And especially the capacity would help capacity to more.
In this case, it's not a capacity increase, it's more of a parallel process for maintenance in terms of looking at the ponds. However, the current plant is not close to capacity, so and this would need to be reevaluated with some specific components like the UV frame, but the overall engineered capacity when it was installed in 1996 was for a population of about 2,500, service population of about 2,500. So we're still not there in terms of hitting the capacity of the plant, but certain components would bottleneck that, certain, upgradable and segment components.
And the upgrades on the hot springs, that went well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I said I would have been way more excited. What he accomplished this year in a capital project of the hot springs was fantastic. The getting rid of the old diesel boiler and bringing in a heat pump system that has runs off of hot water. Like you just can't beat it. It's going to make some substantial savings both in the operation of the hot springs itself, and of course the heat pumps that you have installed in the chalets as well are going to create significant savings. So it's very good work.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, even it's great. If my family and relatives came in and we went that boardwalk, showed it to them, and they're really impressed. So I just want to thank you for that too. So it's great. Any other questions? All in favor? Okay. All right. We're on J1, right? Motions arising from reports. Okay, new business. 26th council conference attendance. We talked about this in the committee of the whole. If anything changes here, let me know, but I will read it out. Recall. See how it works out. The following conference be attended by the following council members in 2026. AKBLG would be all council members. Attend the 2026 FCM conference would be the mayor and the regional district director will be going through the regional district. And the attend the 2026 UBCN convention. I believe it was Councillor Knoisen, Councillor Edwards, and myself. And the regional director, Custer regional director, will be funded under the ODCP. Do I have everything correct? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. All right, J2. This one here, there's a recommendation that GVP 2025-01 be approved to vary the definition of parcel line front under section 2.1 of Village of Nakusp zoning bylaw number 7/29/2023 for parcel A. CM 530, brackets, block 37, district lot 397, Kootenai District Plan 494. Property identification 016-257-499, only to mean the parcel line facing Third Street northwest.
I didn't catch that. Can you say that? I'll make that one.
My hearing's gone. Seconder? Councilor Huff, any questions? To the staff, normally what I read in the report, this doesn't really need to come to council anymore, is that correct, or did I read that wrong?
Sorry, this does.
It
So
does.
otherwise I would have happily approved it, but I cannot vary bylaw. So, or I should say, I can't vary a bylaw, of this magnitude. So this is what's considered a major variance. And the reason being is that the development that the proponent is looking to have done is the development of a new house. So the dollar value far exceeds what I would be able to vary.
Good, J3.
Don't get it wrong, but still.
Oh, good, all in favor? Carry. Thank you. J3, I was so excited.
There's,
Councilor Huff, do you want to take this one away?
that council makes the following appointments to the Nakusp Board of Directors. The recommendation is, Mason Huff. Or sorry,
Do what you want.
I can do that right now, okay, thank you. Make a motion as written, to replace, Mason Huff as the village of Nakusp councillor, and replace with, Mayor Tom Zelzny. Teresa Weatherhead, RDCK Area K Director, John Can, Patrick Judd, Jennifer Pearson, Christopher James, and Scott Baker.
Questions?
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can't bring up. Questions now. So Councilor Huff, the reason he's, because of his job, I'm the alternate for their, for NAC board, but due to his duties for work, and time away, I will be the, councilor, the rep for the village, and he will be an alternate, correct?
That's great.
Okay, just to clarify that. Any more questions? All in favor? Carried. Information items. Items K1 to K9 be received for information. Can I bring these forward? Councilor McLeod, seconded. Councilor Huff. And there's quite a few here, so I have a few, but I'll let the council go ahead first. Councilor Huff, do you have any items you want to bring forward?
Nothing to bring forward, so.
Councilor Canoisan,
Nothing to bring forward, thank you.
Councilor McLaren Cole.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have a few. I'm gonna start at K1, which is from UBCM, the preliminary findings report on the Heritage Conservation Act, or the proposed changes to the Heritage Conservation Act. It is worth a read. When I was writing my notes about it, there's a lot going on, right? And we're just talking to Wayne, the CAO, earlier today. There's a lot of things going on with the province right now. And I kind of conflated the Cowichan Lands decision with the Heritage Conservation Act because they're similar topics, but they're not exactly the same. But I would say it's worth reading the 9 pages or so of this. UBCM had a webinar maybe 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, for local government officials to answer their questions and to get some feedback that they can include in this report, which they have now released. So anyway, I just think that's worth a good read. I'm gonna assume that, Mr. Mayor, you'll bring up the sidewalk piece, K2, but I just was gonna say maybe through the staff, and if you want to take it, great, but if maybe there's a way that we can adjust our paving plan to address this. I come from a military family, so I'm kind of biased. K3 and 5. There's a letter from, there's two items and they're both related to private members bill M216, which is commonly known as the Professional Reliance Act. There is a lot of concern in a lot of places about the passage of this bill. And in my discussions at UBCM and elsewhere, people are very concerned about this is another step of the government, and I say this in a nonpartisan way, but the current government taking decision-making power away from municipal or local governments, regional districts and municipalities. And then officially the UBCM position, and I think it's been put out on their website and newsletter, that they've been advocating for a pause to do more consultation at the very minimum, put a pause on this legislation and do more consultation with local governments before it gets to third reading and potentially passage. Because anyway, there's a lot of challenges with that. And then lastly, K8, which is RDCK board highlights, just always just a plug in there for that. If anybody has questions about what's going on at the regional district, I squeaked through as vice chair again this year. Still on the executive at the board. And I mentioned earlier that we extended our fire services agreement temporarily for 6 months while we negotiate a longer term contract. And I wanted to mention, it's not in there, but I wanted to mention that the regional district is undergoing an organizational review, which could mean nothing, but hopefully it means something. It could be maybe the biggest group of decisions we make in the whole term, that there could be some major, I'm not saying there will be, but there could be some major shakeups and changes as an organization there. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. To the CA role. Yes, I read this, saw both sides, and I would like to understand a bit more. Have you had a chance to read this, M216?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I wrote a letter to both our MLA and I submitted a comment on the provincial legislature website about this. I responded as a CAO and a statutory approving officer, not on behalf of the village of Nakusp. And if you don't mind me stating what I wrote, I'm very concerned. I understand and I applaud any attempt to remove red tape, because it's something that we badly need to do. However, there is a significant exposure to liability that's being brought forward by this bill that I don't think that whoever brought this forward, the minister who brought this forward, understands that they're opening up. My concerns specifically have to do more with the certified professionals. So I'll just be really basic with how I explain it. So when somebody brings in an application for a subdivision, for example, they'll provide us with some engineer drawings and we'll take that, we'll look at it, and it'll come from their engineer, and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to our engineer and say, does this make sense? Or often in our case, I could even just give it to Cav and you can take a look and say, oh yeah, this makes sense because this. This bill is proposing that if a professional is designated under the PGA or the professional, Professional Governance Act, if the professional brings it forward and says, this is the plan that we have in place, we have to accept it. And we can't question. And you can actually apply to the province. And that's the thing that really says you're not getting rid of any red tape, because of course, if you look at it, you say, well, this doesn't make any sense at all. Then you're going to apply to the province. And of course, the province will take a long time to review it. So it just actually slows things down. The issue here is, what if you have a developer who also is the professional? They're obviously going to put forward a design or plans that's going to benefit their development. That's only human nature, but it might not match what we need here in the municipality. So if you had a piece of infrastructure that you knew that was going to age out within the next 5 years, you could reasonably request that they upgrade that as it's provided that it was tied to their development. You wouldn't have that ability to do that anymore. So it could actually mean us duplicating work. The other thing that's also quite scary about this and concerning is what if that person goes out of business? And they do a bunch of work and it fails miserably. Let's say they were supposed to do a geotechnical and everything slides. People lose their lives, they lose their homes. If they go out of business and they're bankrupt, well, then the courts have to determine who is responsible. If the village is determined to be even 5% responsible, the taxpayers are responsible for 100% of the cost. This is a very scary bill. And that's why I commented about it today.
No, thank you. I read it and I'm going, I saw both sides and I'm going, oh, this be scary. So if I could, would you send me the letter? Because they've asked all council and all members of to speak on. it. So, yeah, that's Councilman Conlon, do you have your hand?
I would just get, just for some more context, what I was hearing in Vancouver last week or week before was, this was a private member's bill. It's not a government bill. And my understanding is that it was kind of haphazardly put together and it didn't go through cabinet review because it's not a government bill. It didn't go through cabinet review. It didn't go through all that due diligence. It was just kind of, oh, I have a chance to, this MLA had a chance to put forth the bill and kind of put this together. And what I've seen online and other places, he's doing quite a bit of campaigning to support it. He's saying a lot of people are behind it, which may or may not be true.
So I don't know if everybody got that letter from Mary Ann and Rick Anderson asking feedback on it. So I haven't done it. I read it and I was gonna ask the CEO person what they thought of it. I was against it when I read it, so I just needed more information on it. K7, yeah, I'm glad to see this. Actually, you know what? I did get something today on this. Just let me see if I can find it. I just got an email from Minister on this. Where did I? No, it was a different one. I'm sorry. I'm still waiting for information. The meeting we had with the, I forget who it was. We had the meeting with,
Minister of Finance.
was it Minister of Finance? Yeah. So, I just kicked myself off again. But anyway, just gotta get back in here. Oh boy, where am I need Jim to help me. Hooked myself in. Anyway, I'll just wing it here, but this is the grants and loop, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so right now, just the concept, what people, the grants and lieu, what we received from, for grants and lieu from BC Hydro buildings in either area, is it?
So it's for power generating revenue.
Power generated revenue, that's around $800, something like that.
Yes.
Where, because Revelstoke has, Revelstoke Dam within its municipal boundaries received $4.2 million. And here's little Nakusp, and Edgewood, Folkview, Burton. You know, we've had to suffer the arrow residue. We've probably been the mostly affected areas, and that's what we receive in Edgewood and Folkview, Burton get little drabs too, but that's all we get. And what people don't realize, I'm glad they've asked you to speak on this because you know it's been an issue for many years, to see what actually Revelstoke started with $1 million receiving, then went out to 2, then 3, and they received $4 million into their coffers every year. You know, so I've asked for 1 million from Revelstoke Mayor, but he doesn't respond. So I'm trying. Anyway, but it's not right. And actually, what I didn't realize, they don't take in perspective the Watchan power plant or the Pinkston power plant. It's in our area. Can I go ahead?
Sure. As council knows, I'm passionate about this topic and I've been talking about this for quite some time. The Pinkston property is not BC Hydro. So Pinkston is, I think it's the ATCO? It's ATCO that owns that one. So it's they're not part of it, but yes, Watchan, for some reason, we don't receive any funding for Watchan. No, yes, we do. No, No, we don't, actually. No, we don't.
You know, we did speak on it when we met with them, the council was all there. And and actually, they were sympathetic, they listened to us, but where it goes from there, I was hoping to receive a letter eventually from them on this topic, but I'm glad this came up. Was this something just new? I didn't even know this was, go ahead.
So I would like to think it's because of what we brought forward at UBCM, but it sounds like the government was already looking at the funding formula and looking at rejigging it. The nice thing for us is that this is something that we've already been working on. We already have our information and our justification written, and it's prepared. So we're not only able to attend the sessions, but I'm also able to provide them with all the written information and research that we've done from our end. The one thing that it should be noted is that they're not looking to increase or decrease the amount of money that's provided to local governments from BC Hydro. What they're looking to do is reallocate how much money each community gets. So as I've said to council in previous times, Village of Valemount gets over $500,000 for generating power off of the Kinbasket Reservoir. We get 8,000 and some odd dollars. So it's there's room for that allocation to be moved. The only way that it can be moved for Nakusp is to benefit us one way or another.
Thank you. And the meetings are coming up on December 4th and December 9th. Correct?
Sorry.
December 4th and 9th?
Yes, so I'm booked for the December 9th session, and I will be sending my written response to Anna before the December 31st, 2025 deadline.
For these Zoom meetings?
The session 2 is the Zoom meeting, that's correct.
Is there any way that council can listen in
It's for CAOs.
or? You appoint the CAO for one?
I cannot. That's your responsibility as council.
All right, it's not good. Okay, thanks. What else today? Well, okay, the sidewalk, yeah. So we did received a letter from Lisa Doan. So if so I believe 2026 will be there. So 100. Next up, no, should have. Oh, one. Boy, what year meeting this will be? 1926. I can't
So just had a number in there, it'd be easier to find, but it's a word.
can't find how many years.
Centennial, so it's 100 years.
100 years anniversary in 2026 for the Legion. The Royal Canadian Legion will celebrate centennial year in 2026. And they wanted to do the memorial crosswalk from the, well, we thought it would be best from the, is it Mint Halcyon Home over to the Cenotaph. They had over to be a walkway that they wanted, but because our road is getting pretty bad, it wouldn't last as long as what if I'm correct. Is that correct? So if they did it next year, if we don't pave it, and they go ahead and put that crosswalk across, how much life does it have? I don't know.
So I can ask the director of operations to answer that. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, so there's some larger cracks in that section in the road, and it won't adhere very well to that. Generally speaking, when you look at markings on roads, if you get 3 years out of them in good condition, that's not bad in areas that are, you know, plowed and sanded and whatever else. So after that, depending on the product, either it'll just fade or won't quite have the same quality that you'd expect. With the cracks, I think after 1 year, after one freeze thaw kind of season, you would start to see that area chip away, and the rest of it would adhere fairly well. But in the section that has the cracks, it would start. So that would be the biggest noticeable difference, is you'd start to see some cracks through the graphic. I don't know if that's significant to the proponents or not, but it would be the major difference. In terms of paving, you know, just looking at the cost, very approximate values, because you don't have any contracts for this, but based on historical cost, it'd be about $3,000 to pave the section we're looking at for the crosswalk. And we would have to include that in the must-do list as opposed to the nice-to-do list, which is what it was on. The paving contractor last year had a couple nice to do parts of town that they didn't get to because they were essentially out of time for what they had budgeted in time for Nakusp, i.e. they left contract money on the table because they got through the must-do list and didn't have the time to do something else.
So that's why it wasn't completed. Although it was requested. So the short answer is they certainly can install the crosswalk. We can't guarantee that it would last maybe as long as they would want.
Okay. Okay, all right, and I think, did you reply to this? I don't know.
No, because we brought it to you.
Okay, so if you could reply, just, you know, if it's okay with council. And just look pretty well what you said. It's their choice. And it may work. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, we're helping you. Any other, oh, I better go back to the heavy news. Anybody else have any others since we brought it up? Yeah, we have $250,000 in the NACPO dividend. That was great, and we should thank them and for their work they do, and the volunteer board members. They do an enormous amount of work. It's not, you know, I think there's 8 board members there, and it's not every month. They have meetings prior to that. They do committees, so they do a lot behind the scenes. The board. I just want to thank them for what they do. So thank them. I think that's about it. All I got. Any other questions? All in favor? Great. Any other action items? Notice of motion. Questions from the press or public, so guidelines, questions may be asked of any council member, but must be directed through the chair. Questions must be truly questions and not statements or opinions by the questioner. Questions must be related to meeting agenda topics. Chair will recognize the questioner and will direct questions to the councillor or staff member whom she feels is best to reply. Public inquiring are to identify first and last name along with general area of residence. So I will reach out to the public, and first I will go online. Is there anyone online?
Yeah, there is one question from JD Ma. And the question is, with the fire department decision, what is the total tax increase forecast? 12.3% plus an additional 2.6%. And the answer is no, just the total is 12.3%.
If that's answered. You've answered that for us? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, just a minute. Is anybody online first? Okay, now we will go to the public in the gallery. Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilor.
Keith Greenhalgh, I live on Government Hill Road.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't.
I live on Government Hill Road.
And who are you?
Keith Greenhalgh.
Okay, because what happens, Keith, is nobody knows who you are online, so.
I do just want to say I dedicated 12 years to being a volunteer firefighter. We're not paid on call. We don't receive any salary. I received $0 to do this. So I have some questions in that.
Questions, yes.
Yeah. We understand that the Fire Smart Coordinator was funded by grants. And I'm curious as to why a resignation wouldn't create a vacancy that was tried to be filled. Why that position was not posted or attempted to be filled in any way.
Yeah, I have to direct that to the CEO because I can't answer.
The reason why that position wasn't filled was time. We didn't have the time to be able to fill the role in that time. A fire smart coordinator has to go through specific training in order to be the fire smart coordinator, so it's not just something we can appoint anybody to. The other reason is because the fire smart / emergency program coordinator is working 1 week out of every 3 weeks for us to help finish up the project as much as he can. Any aspects of his work in the fire smart aspect that will not be completed are likely to be handled by myself, whatever I can get through, and then Martha's doing all the financial administrative aspects that also includes the fire department work.
Okay, thank you. Supplement?
Yeah, supplementary, question through the chair. If there was a budget for over $100,000 in wages attached to Fire Smart and a part-time fire chief that was also shared to RDCK, why is it reflecting a large increase to taxes to request a sustained salaries belonging to the fire?
This is all clearly written within the report that I wrote on what happened with the budget. So no monies left the fire department whatsoever. All monies were brought back into the fire department, but they were allocated in different ways. So as I state in my report, the funding for the fire department was in 2025 was these are the only changes. So the agreed upon stipend for so this actually, in case you want to read along, it's page 6 of the report. So the fire chief was paid, the fire chief position was paid as a stipend, $20,000, $950, $8,950 of that was to be paid to the outgoing fire chief for his work that he completed in January and any unused vacation. The agreed upon stipend for the fire chief was $12,000. Building rent went from $5,000 to $24,000, and the reason being was to bring that more into line with the BC ambulance, and that's to help ensure that this building is going to be able to be maintained so that the fire department can use it for future years. The training officer stipend was also brought up to $12,000 from $6,000 in 2024, and that was all provided to the existing fire chief for a grand total of $24,000, which is double the amount that was asked for. And that was to ensure that it was fairly compensated for doing both of the work. The department was, the training for the department was also increased. It was increased $6,000, $5,000 up to $21,500 for 2024. We started to provide reserves to the emergency services building of $11,812. And we included a $20,000 contingency fund that sits within the fire department. And this was because it was anticipated that there would be changes to the Nakusp volunteer fire department personnel and the operating model. Further, we'd expected potential building maintenance projects that would have to take place. There's some issues with the roof that need to be fixed, including gutters and snow rakes. And there's also an issue in one of the bays that's rented by the ambulance. Unfortunately, those projects were not able to be completed this year. So all of those funds that were taken from the fire chief's wage, which was allocated in 2024, were allocated back into the fire department. So I can't stress this enough. Not $1 was removed from the fire department's budget.
That didn't. My question was, if there was a budget for salaries that included grants from Fire Smart, that included shared costs through RDCK of salaries of more than what's proposed, why is the proposed budget reflecting a increase
Oh,
taxation.
okay, because the Fire Smart grant is a grant. We don't get it every single year, right? So we have to apply for it. So if you don't use that grant money, you have to give it back. So $100,000 that was allocated for that project, that program was for rebates for people who did some sort of program, who did some sort of rebate work. They never did the work, the people didn't apply for it, so we have to give it back. So the reason why we had to increase the budget is because the wages for the emergency program coordinator, some of them were being paid for by the COVID Safe Start, Restart program. So that funding's wore out, so we're going to have to increase by 1.3% this year only, like, for that regardless.
Okay, understood. So what conceivably would it be conceivable that a chief slash coordinator position could tap into utilizing the Fire Smart grant?
No, because the Fire Smart grant is not guaranteed, so never base a position and ongoing work off of a grant you don't know where you're going to get every year. Because if you do that, what happens is the moment that you get that funding, we now have to do a sudden tax increase in order to take care of that. So it's never a good way to operate, to do that sort of thing. Plus Fire Smart, we have to apply for the Fire Smart program every year, and that's usually done by, say, like, if we were to do it as in that way with the fire chief, the fire chief would then be applying for Fire Smart funding to do Fire Smart programming within his full-time position. They're not gonna offer you money for that because you're basically what you're admitting is you're supplementing your wage with a Fire Smart grant to really do no more than what you already do.
Understood, but there was a position previously doing that.
Yeah.
Specifically Fire Smart.
Specifically Fire Smart, and then we added all these other things into it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Richard, did you have any? No? Nothing else online?
No.
Jim? How come you're so quiet?
You can actually hear what we're saying now.
Because everything's going so smoothly.
Okay, thanks. All right, okay, notice in camera? None. Items brought forward from in camera? None. And we don't have Dolly here, so I'm gonna ask Mason to do the adjournment. 8:23 PM. Okay, thanks everyone.
My fault, this is all important questions, just come in. Like, that's why I don't.
you.